I want to talk about a process to clearly define the value you create in communities. And when we talk about it, we talk about this as your promise to your community, because we feel like the word is important. It's not simply a service or an offering. It's about a moral requirement almost. It's a commitment that you make to your community and your customers of what you will do in return for their time, their attention, their loyalty, and their resources. And there's a process that helps you frame this that basically looks at who you're serving, what they care about, and what you'll do for them. Now in marketing, this is called segmentation, targeting, and positioning, but at its core, we're looking at understanding the entire world. What are your customer segments? Then you narrow in and you target those customer segments that you want. Then you define and identify what preferences those segments have. And finally, you bring it all together and you define your value promise. What is a simple statement that you can use to direct your work moving forward? We often hear that the world is this increasingly chaotic, unpredictable place. And think of segmentation as a way to make the outside world a bit more predictable. When we talk about segmentation, we're basically talking about describing the complete universe. That is, everyone around you, whether they attend or not. It's your map of the world and the landscape around you. And it's how we divide the world, how we divide your market into groups that behave in the same way. So that we can better predict who will buy, who will participate, who will subscribe, who will donate. So there are different dimensions you can use to segment an audience. First, everyone everywhere. Technically, this isn't segmentation. This is approach everyone and treat everyone equally. Next, you can narrow a bit more on demographics. Easily identifiable characteristics like gender, age, education level. But you might ask yourself, is this really useful to you? Does every college-educated male, age 25 to 40, want to see the same play? Maybe not. Next, you move in a bit on usage patterns. And while demographics was kind of an external thing, demographics is more internal. It's how your customers interact with your institution or with your programs. When do they come? How long do they stay? Who do they come with? Are there certain days of the week that they come? What events do they like? That sort of thing. And finally, there's psychographic information. And this is where you differentiate based on how your customers feel about you. This is based on their preferences, their needs, their motivations. This is where really interesting segmentation can happen. Now we're going to narrow in a bit on the customer segments that we want to focus. Remember, strategy is about trade-offs. We can't be all things to all people because none of us have unlimited resources. We have to make choices. And targeting defines that customer segment, that group that we're going to focus our efforts on. Now, it doesn't mean we're going to close the doors to anyone or exclude folks who are not inside that target segment. It simply says that these are the people we're going to spend our resources on, our time, our money, our attention, our design efforts, to ensure that we reach them, that we engage them, and that we create value for them. Here's where we learn a little bit more about our customers. How do we think about them in a way that can help us make better choices? What are the attributes or features of our programs that appeal to our customer segments? And the importance of these attributes can vary greatly across different segments. Again, it comes down to strategic choices. You can't be great at everything. And in order to excel at a certain attribute or a certain part of your service, you may have to spend less resource and be less great at something else. Because if you underperform on an attribute that's important to your customer segment, you're likely going to have difficulty in attracting that customer group. And on the other hand, if you excel at something that's not really of any value to your customers, then you're likely wasting precious resources. Focusing your efforts on the things that matter most to your customers positions you to create the most value for them. And finally, we bring it all together with a value promise, your value proposition, which basically is, what is the promise you will make to that target customer segment that positions you above all alternatives in the market, above all competitors? Because the value only has meaning if you can say, Compared to what? What is that competitive set? Who are the others that we're being compared to? And for whom? Because remember, we don't get to decide what's valuable. That decision rests with our customers. So if you define this value promise, but it doesn't resonate with that target segment, then we need to go back and look and start again with this process. But once you have it, once you have a value proposition or value promise, it's an excellent test for you to use to hold up against the work that you're doing to say, does this hold up to this promise? Are we living up to the promise we're making to our customers?